The movie is set in a vertical prison with 333 floors, featuring a central hole for self-management. Each day, a platform loaded with food descends through this opening, stopping for 2 minutes on each level. Prisoners on the upper floors have first access to food, while those below get little to nothing. A strict rule forbids them from keeping food in their cells for longer than 2 minutes, or they'll be punished. At the end of each month, inmates are gassed and randomly reassigned to different floors before re-entering the prison. Prisoners are interviewed about their favorite foods, which they'll receive daily, and are allowed one personal item to their cell. Next, meet Zamyatin, imprisoned after attempting to burn down his parents' house. He is placed in cell number 24, which is shared along with his cellmate, Parampuan. On the first day, the platform arrives with food, and Zamyatin eagerly anticipates eating his pizza. However, he becomes furious upon finding that someone has already eaten the meat from it. He then grabs a chicken wing, but a man named Robespierre from the cell above stops him. Robespierre explains that a group called the Loyalists has imposed a strict rule. No one may take others' food unless they make an exchange. He emphasizes the importance of this rule to ensure fair food distribution across levels. Those who break this rule are labeled barbarians and face punishment for their actions. Frustrated, Zamyatin demands to know who ate the meat off his pizza, and it turns out someone from the first floor is responsible. Robespierre assures him that the Loyalists on floors 19 and 20 will deal with that person tomorrow. This is because, according to the rules, only the 2 immediate upper levels are allowed to handle the barbarian. Still hungry, he disregards this and tries to eat the chicken wing, but Parampuan stops him, sensing his desperation for meat. She offers him some of her croquettes instead. Zamyatin seems content for now, but warns the Loyalists that if there's no meat tomorrow, he won't care about the rules anymore. The next day, as Zamyatin waits for his food, he hears the upper levels confronting the barbarian who ate his pizza. The inmates from the 19th and 20th floors fail to subdue him, and the fight now spills over into the 23rd cell. Robespierre warns them that they're responsible if they can't control the barbarian. Zamyatin seems too scared to fight. Just then Robespierre and the barbarian crash into cell 24. Meanwhile, Robespierre's cellmate in the upper cell is desperately trying to clear away scattered food. When she fails to finish in time, the cell ignites, and she falls onto the platform in flames. Parampuan tries very hard to put out the flames, while Zamyatin watches in shock. Shortly after, Robespierre restrains and ties up the barbarian. However, he's devastated to discover that his cellmate has passed away. When Parampuan asks what he intends to do with the barbarian, Robespierre reveals he will deliver him to the Anointed Ones. He then explains about a master who established the rules they are following. Robespierre shares that long ago, the master survived an entire month without food on one of the lower floors. During that period, he cut meat from his own thigh to feed the neediest, who later became the Anointed Ones, also known as those who eat meat. After recounting this story, Robespierre respectfully wraps his cellmate's body in a clean cloth and throws her down the pit, and a group of ravenous cannibals are seen devouring her. The next day, when the platform is at 24, Zamyatin taunts the barbarian by flaunting his pizza. Then they begin eating, but suddenly, Robespierre tosses his late cellmate's food into the toilet, leaving the duo confused. He explains it's against the law to share food, and no one should celebrate a comrade's death. He tasks Zamyatin and Parampuan with daily food disposal. Following this, he takes the barbarian and descends deeper on the platform in search of the Anointed Ones. As days go by, Zamyatin and Parampuan grow closer and begin living together like true partners. They also make an effort to follow the rules by discarding the deceased woman's food daily, but Zamyatin occasionally sneaks a few bites, which inmates on other levels notice, and is caught eating someone else's meat. The following month, they unexpectedly find themselves in cell 180, an extremely low floor. When the platform arrives, it's empty except for bare dishes, leaving them frustrated. As time passes, they eventually ignore the platform, knowing it will have no food. Zamyatin falls gravely ill from starvation and begins coughing up blood. To make matters worse, it's rumored that several rule breakers are being hunted and punished by the Anointed Ones. One of the targets is a heavy-set man from cell 24 who ate a dead inmate's food last month. Other inmates ask Parampuan which cell they were in, but she lies, saying it was 46. One evening, a depressed and starving Zamayatan contemplates ending his life. He's afraid he will either starve to death or worse will be punished by the loyalists. He then stands at the edge of the platform as horrified Perempuin tries to stop him, but he insists she stand back. He urges her to promise that once she's free, she'll find his children and tell them their father always loved them. After this, he sets himself on fire and jumps into the pit. This brings joy to some inmates, while Perempuin is left heartbroken by the loss of her cellmate. After Zamayatan's death, Perempuin wakes up in cell 51 the next morning. She meets her new cellmate, Sahabath, who is missing a hand below the elbow. Perempuin assumes she's new here and explains the rules set by the loyalists. Later, chaos erupts as they hear of a barbarian on level 54. The man was previously on level 2, where he'd eat until he vomited, and now he's killed his cellmate. Upon hearing this, Perempuin volunteers to handle him, but the loyalists stop her, reminding her that only the two immediate upper levels can intervene. The next day, they hear distant screams, and soon a female's severed head rolls down the pit while they chant Dagon Babi is punishing the barbarians. Later, when the platform arrives on their level, Perempuin and Sahabat break their bed frames and decide to go after the barbarian on level 54. When they reach level 52, the inmates are terrified and refuse to let them pass, claiming it would disrupt the chain of communication. However, when the two women persist, they eventually agree to let them through. One man stays to maintain communication and the other joins the women. Just as they reach cell 54, the troublemaker waits with a sharp weapon. He quickly attacks one inmate's leg before they can even get off the platform. In the ensuing fight, he manages to fight back, but Perempuin eventually overpowers him. As she's about to kill him, he begs for mercy, claiming he only wanted food to survive. Perempuin decides to let him go. The man then gets on the platform to descend. Seeing this, Sahabat desperately tries to follow, but Perempuin manages to stop her. Later, while tending to their wounds, Sahabat reveals that she has been in this place for 6 months. She explains that when she first arrived, her cellmate Kiush explained the rules imposed by the loyalists. The two women obediently followed the rules, even though they felt unfair. However, one day, they came across a weak boy and offered him food that belonged to a deceased inmate. Not long after, Meg, Bobby, and his men showed up to punish them for this action. It turns out that Bobby was the one who severed Sahabat's elbows. When he tried to do the same to Kiush, she fought back and gouged his eyes. This enraged him so much that he tied her naked to the platform and sent her down the pit, where cannibals devoured her. Upon hearing this, Perempuin is horrified, and Sahabat asserts that survival in this pit is impossible, so they must find a way to escape soon. She reveals their only chance to do so is during the intervals when the authorities knock them out and change their cells. Sahabat says they have to find a way to counteract the sleep-inducing gas called the drown dog, but sadly she doesn't know what it is. The next morning, they find a naked man tied to the platform. Realizing it's most likely Dagon and Bobby's doing, they feel an urgent need to escape, but unfortunately their oppressors arrive soon, and this time they are accompanied by henchmen. They reveal they are here to punish the women for breaking the law and interfering in a conflict that wasn't theirs. Dagon states that those who enabled them are equally guilty and will not be spared. He then declares he will sever everyone's hands, but for Sahabat, who broke the rules again, her fate will be like her former cellmates, death. With this, Dagon and his henchmen begin attacking several inmates, viciously cutting off their arms. The prisoners scream and plead for mercy, but the enforcers show no compassion. Meanwhile, Sahabat is tied up and is seen being stripped as they prepare her to be sent to the pit's depths, where she is soon devoured by cannibals. In the following scene, Perempuin awakens in cell 72 with her hand amputated. She then meets her new cellmate, an old man named Trimagesi. They introduce themselves, and when Perempuin asks what item he brought, he proudly shows her a knife, saying, "I like to cut things." Shortly after, the platform arrives, and Trimagesi starts eating whatever he pleases, ignoring the rules. Perempuin decides to descend, and to her surprise, the old man joins her. As they go down, they encourage other inmates to join them in rising against Dag and Bobby. Frustrated with the oppression, Many inmates rally around her, chanting and singing with enthusiasm. Soon, they reach the 93rd cell, where Perempuin spots a painting of a drowned dog. Realizing this must be what Sahabat mentioned, she tells the group they now have enough members and suggests they rest here. The group agrees and climbs down, sharpening their weapons in preparation for the coming battle, while Perempuin observes the painting with interest. The next day, Dagan and his henchmen arrive at the 92nd cell to confront the barbarians. They demand their surrender, threatening to starve them to death by consuming all the food themselves. However, they remain unfazed, and when Trimagesi suggests that they eat the loyalists instead, saying, "I'll cut them with my knife," everyone eagerly agrees in support, clapping and cheering for each other. Fed up by their defiance, Dagan decides to cut their food supply. Perempuin becomes weak and is seen hallucinating as she rejects cannibalism. Finally, Dagan's group arrives at their cell to confront the rebels. A fight erupts amongst the inmates, killing each other regardless of which side they belong to. Even the guy who Perempuin had spared earlier tries to kill her, but she manages to stab the man with the knife that Trimagesi passes her. Before dying, he asks her why is this painting so important to her, but she doesn't answer the question and lets the barbarian die without knowing. After the chaos subsides, only Perempuin and Trimagesi have managed to survive, while everyone else lies dead. Perempuin notices Dagan, badly injured but still clinging to life. She smirks at him, saying she could tear his flesh off piece by piece and torture him for days. However, she decides not to bother and simply throws him down the pit to be eaten by cannibals. Perempuin realizes the gas will be released soon, so she eats a piece of the painting. She offers it to Trimagesi, but he refuses, saying he can't escape this prison. Soon the harmful chemical in the painting causes Perempuin to lose consciousness and appear dead. Next, we see some kids on a pyramid-like structure, all struggling to reach the top. A boy becomes victorious and soon two adults arrive, one of whom whispers something in his ear. The child appears disturbed, and they take him away from there. Meanwhile, Perempuin wakes up to find herself tied up with other corpses. She notices some masked guards in the distance collecting dead bodies. She then devises a plan to reach the bottom level and find an escape route. But as she arrives 333, she sees the guards placing the boy from earlier onto a bed. Seeing this, Perempuin is shocked and worries that they will starve the child as well. It seems the facility keeps children as tools to manipulate prisoners and prevent any escape attempts. Perempuin contemplates whether she should risk her life to save him or escape the place. In the end, she decides to do the right thing and helps the unconscious boy. They descend together to the bottom, and along the way, she repeatedly hits her head against the side of the prison, losing a lot of blood. In the final scene, the two arrive at the bottom of the pit, where a group of cannibals greets them, and surprisingly, they do not attack her either. The woman tells Perempuin that her journey is over. However, the child still has to live and has a chance to get away. She is confused but reluctantly climbs down from the platform and joins the cannibals. The movie then comes to an end as the platform ascends back to the top, carrying the boy with it. Here's my take on the ending. While I could be wrong, but I leave it here for you to review. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. In the ending, Perempuin finds herself in a desperate situation. After a harrowing journey down the vertical prison, she ends up at the bottom level, where she encounters a group of deceased individuals, including characters from the first film, like Trimagesi and Zamayatan. It's heavily implied that she has died from the injuries sustained during her descent, symbolizing a kind of hell or purgatory for those who rebelled against the brutal system in place. Despite her suffering, she makes the ultimate sacrifice by saving a young boy, embodying hope and resilience amidst the brutality of their world. Her decision to let him ascend alone highlights the human spirit and the lengths we will go to protect the innocent. As she joins the cannibals, it represents the harsh reality of survival and the loss of humanity in their fight against oppression. The boy's ascent symbolizes a flicker of hope and a chance for change, while Perempuin's fate serves as a reminder of the sacrifices we make for those we love. This ending challenges us to reflect on our choices and the impact of our actions in a world filled with injustice. That's the end of the video. As you would agree, it takes a lot of time and effort to produce this kind of content. So if you enjoyed it, please consider dropping a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. It'll only take a second of your time, but will help us a lot and motivate us to create more content like this. Don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated on our next video. Thanks.